This last video is going to go over our last few forms in the accomplishment and outcomes section. These forms, some of them you'll fill out early on, and some of them you're going to fill out as you go, similar to the other forms on the page. One of those is going to be your community partnerships. So let's go into that one. These are going to be your memoranda of understanding, cooperative involvement agreements, and other types of formal agreements with your community partners with the intent to accomplish grant activities. So let's go ahead and add one in. First, you're going to put your partnership agreement name. Doesn't have to include any specific detail. I'm going to steal an idea from Jefferson Parish and say we're going to use an example of that the local firehouse is letting us use their space for our coalition meetings. So I'm going to say fire department space agreement. You can choose either if this is an MOU, a CIA, or neither, which some certainly might be. For this, I'm just going to choose neither. Maybe we didn't get signed permission, but it was more of a understood agreement. We're going to say that it's new. Primary purpose is, we'll say Firehouse number 3 will provide space for coalition meetings on first Tuesday of every month. Just include the relevant details of your agreement. Next, we want to add the parties to the agreement. So here's how you're going to do this. This is click to add a new option below to enter each separate party. So this is the option, the button that you'll click. The text box will appear and you'll enter in, we'll say Firehouse number 3 and click submit. If you try to just enter text here, it's not going to let you do it. So if there was another party to the agreement, we would just add a new option and say something like local HSA, submit, and it'll show up there. So that's all you have to do to add each party to the agreement. Of course, if you have more details you want to give, you can do that in the notes and comments. We'll click submit for it to save, and it shows up right there in our table. Okay, the next form are the policy changes, which we've already been through in the first video, so I'm not going to go over that one again. So let's go to successes. We wanted to add this form in because there might be little things along the way that you didn't include as an outcome in your logic model. It wasn't something that you specifically set out to do, but it was what we would call like a win for your community. Traditional ways of data collection just don't capture those little wins. So we wanted to be able to allow you to report things that are wins in your community that might be unique to its culture and challenges. So let's add a success here. And maybe our success was it's been very difficult in our community to have access to the city council to get an item on the agenda. Maybe it's taken a lot of meetings and a lot of work over several months to add, able to add item of, we'll say alcohol advertising to city council or police jury, whatever your local council is, to their agenda. So let's see. If you have an intervention that's directly related to, you can choose that here. Again, these are only going to be the interventions that you've put into your intervention form. You don't have to select one though, and then you can put more detail and the notes and comments too, but you certainly can put most of that in the success description. You won't have a word limit for that. Okay, so our last form on the Data Hub is your expected program outcomes. This is following from your logic model. So this is something that you'll probably put, use your logic model to put this information in. It is not limited to what's on your logic model, but that certainly would be a guide for you. So remember that outcomes are specific changes in attitudes, behaviors, knowledge, skills, or beliefs resulting from program activities. This is where you're going to put your expected program outcomes. All right, let's see what this form looks like. So first you're going to enter whether it's a short-term or long-term outcome. And I have examples here for your outcome description. Detail is good, like being specific as far as how much you want a behavior or environmental factor to decrease, but that's not always necessarily possible, or it's not always necessarily applicable to an outcome. To know the exact amount you expect it to decrease in the time frame. But if you do have that, that's ideal. But that's why I have both examples here, so that you can enter something in that's not necessarily this specific. So we're going to say decrease DUIs. We want to name this data source for this outcome if you have it. So where are you going to get this information? I'm going to say highway safety data. I'm not exactly sure if that's where you would get that, but I'm just going to say that for this purpose. If you have an actual outcome measure for this, like let's say it's 2 to 3 years from now, you've gotten some data in, you can go back into this form and go ahead and put that information. So you can, let's say the year is 2022, and as of 12/31/2022, DUIs have decreased by 0.5% in parish. But you're not going to have that information now. That's just there if you want to fill it in later on. We also want to know what population is associated with this outcome. So for example, if I'm wanting to know how many kids are receiving alcohol from adults, we're probably getting that from CCYS data. That population would be targeted for students. So you see when I put targeted, it's going to ask me what is the target population. But for this, it's community-wide. If applicable, choose your interventions that you felt had a positive or a negative impact on this specific outcome. This is also, it's obviously a very broad question. It's a subjective question, but we want to give you the opportunity to report that. And again, only the interventions that you have put in your intervention form are going to appear on this drop down. So we can say maybe we think that our public awareness has helped with that and our sobriety checkpoints. We do want you to explain why you feel those interventions that you selected had an impact. We want you to put as much information, specific information in there as you can. So if you have data directly from highway safety or a report from the police department, things like that, we would want to know that there. Again, you may not have this information. This is just a place for you to be able to document that once you have it. So we're going to click submit, and this will be the place where you go back in every now and then, as soon as if you get new data or you want to document new data, you'll just go in and edit and put in your latest information that, as far as you know, is what the current outcome measure is, and if there's a change in what interventions you feel had the positive or negative effect. And that is all for our forms in the LSU SHREC SPF PFS Data Hub. If you have questions or issues with the Data Hub, if you will please email klittle1@lsu.edu. That's my email, Christina Little. Or you could also email SHREC. Okay, cut that out. If you're having any issues or concerns with the Data Hub, I do ask that you email me, Christina Little, at klittle1@lsu.edu. What else? I will also be sending out a document that will. There is also a PDF document available for you that goes through each of these forms and the information that I gave you in the tutorial.